I am Jen Wilson from iamjenwilson.com, here to take you through your Pilates session this morning. As always, if you have any injuries or any questions about anything that we do in today's session, please get in touch with me and I can talk you through anything that needs to be talked through. Instagram, iam.jenwilson, or my email, jen@iamjenwilson.com. It's bring yourself over onto your back. We're going to do a bit of focus on spinal mobility today. So lying yourself down, get your body comfortable as possible. So find contact points. We're going to start with our legs together today. Take your arms away from the body. Thinking about pinning the shoulders down into the floor. We want the neck nice and long so your chin is slightly tucked in. You might have a bit of a double chin, but that's okay. We're going to squeeze the legs in against each other. So imagine that you've got a band tied around the thighs and tied around the ankles so that the legs are staying really pinned together. As you exhale, we're going to start to take the knees over towards one side. Pull the tummy muscles in as you bring the knees back up to the centre. And then exhale, start to take the knees to the other side. Now, as your knees are coming over, we want this opposite shoulder to be pinned into the floor, so that's not lifting. Squeeze and bring it back. And we start this movement quite small as we go from one side to the other. And then gradually make the movement a little bit bigger. So we're thinking about where can I control this movement to and still use those tummy muscles to pull my waist and my legs back up. If it feels that the legs are pulling you up, then you've gone too far. If it feels that you're coming over and this opposite shoulder starts to pull up, you've gone too far. So we just stay in the range that feels right for you. So we're just getting a bit of spinal rotation here, but we're working into our waist muscles. We're drawing these lower tummy muscles in to help with that control. If this feels good and you want to start to make the movement a little bit bigger, you can bring the heels up off the floor. That's going to put a tiny bit more resistance through the movement. If that doesn't feel good, you always have the option to bring your feet back onto the floor. And if that feels good and you want a bit more resistance, we can start to lift our feet up off the floor. Now, if you've lifted the feet up off the floor and that just feels a bit too much and you want something in between to build some strength, bring the toes back down, and as you come over to the side, extend the top leg out, bring it back, bring it over, extend the top leg out. So we're getting half the extra resistance. And you can do that with your feet up off the floor. If you think, well, that feels good, but I'm not ready to take my feet any higher, come to the side, extend the leg out, bring it over to the side, extend the leg out. You can, if it feels good doing that, then maybe you start to bring the feet up a little bit higher. So in this, your feet can be anywhere from being on the floor to having the legs straight up. And if you're somewhere in between having the knees in tabletop and being straight up, but you want to move towards that, keep the knees in tabletop, come over to the side. If you've done one leg and it feels okay, but going to two legs is still too much, then take two legs out, bring it in, bring it up, and over, and two legs out, and in, and over. So we'll do that one more time to each side at whatever level feels good for you. And last time over. Coming back into the centre, bring the feet down, set the feet back to being hip width apart, bring the arms back in. So letting the arms rest down to the sides of the hips. If you let your palms be faced in towards your hips, so the pinkies are resting on the floor, that will help keep your arms a little bit more relaxed. You want to find a space for the feet that when you press down, you can create some active arches and it feels like the muscles in the legs are becoming active. We're taking this into a shoulder bridge. Inhale, as you exhale, scoop the tummy muscles in to tuck the tailbone under, pressing the lower back into the floor, squeezing into the backside. Got those active arches as we're lifting the hips up. Press the shoulders down into the floor. Just bringing your hips up as high as is comfortable. Take an inhale at the top. As you exhale, keep the tailbone tucked under as we lower the spine back down into the floor. Pause at the bottom to inhale. As you exhale, scoop the tummy in, squeeze into the backside, rolling the spine up. Inhaling at the top, exhaling. Keep the tailbone tucked as you roll the spine all the way back down. Inhaling at the bottom, exhaling, coming up. Inhaling at the top, exhaling, coming down. If this feels good, we're going to add the arms into the movement. So as the hips are coming up, the arms are coming up and over, so it's taking away some of the stability. Pause at the top to inhale. As you exhale, bring the arms down as the hips come back down. We'll do that 2 more times. Exhaling the hips up, bringing the arms in if that felt like a good move for you. And then last time. When the hips come back down, bring the knees up into the chest. Take a little rock from side to side. Bring the head up in towards the knees to get some length in the spine. Look from left to right. Make sure you've not got a tight neck. Keep the knees hugged in as you bring the head down to the floor. Take the hands onto one of your shins, so you're hugging the knee right in and extend the other leg away. We're going to take it into a single leg stretch. When you're ready, exhale the head up in towards the knee. Inhale, release. Exhale, switch to the other side. Inhale, release. Exhale, switch. So butt stays tight, tummy stays tight. The knee that's coming into the chest, we're hugging it right in to get a release backside into the back of the hip. The head's up, you're getting a bit of a release into the neck and the spine as well. As you're lengthening the leg away, point the toe, we're opening into the front of the hip here. Now, if you've lifted your head up and you're feeling tension in the neck, jaw, shoulders, bring your head back onto the floor and work from here. So listen to your body. It's going to give you all the signals that you need to know what feels good in your body and what doesn't feel good in your body. We're going to do that 1 more time to each side. And then we're going to bring both knees into the chest, taking it into a double leg stretch. So bring the legs together, one hand on each shin, head up in towards the knees. So we're inhaling, squeeze the legs together, arms go overhead, squeeze into the backside. And then exhale, curl yourself back up into a ball. Now as you're extending those legs out, the legs are tight, backside's tight, tummy's tight, back feels nice and comfortable and supported. If your back is arching up off the floor, keep your legs up high. If this feels strong, then you can start to lower the legs down a little bit closer to the floor. Exhale, hug it in. Inhale, lengthen it out. So every single repetition, we're listening to the body. If you start to feel this in the back at all, we adjust. You never want to cause strain anywhere that we're not meant to. We're meant to be working those muscles while supporting others. 2 more times. And then take a rest. Give the body any release that feels good here. Give it any movement that feels good. And then bring your body into a full body stretch. So we want our legs out long. I've got my toes pointed up towards the ceiling so I can press my heels into the floor. Hands are about shoulder width apart. Going to come into a roll up from here. So take an inhale. As you're exhaling, we're pressing the heels into the floor and bringing the arms up and over, tucking the chin in. Now, if you come part of the way up and then get stuck, pop your elbows down, give yourself a little nudge, bring yourself up, lean forward into a stretch, sit up on an inhale, and as you're exhaling, we're going to slowly start to roll yourself back down to the floor. Now, if you get part of the way and feel like you're going to just fall back, bend the knees, hook the hands into the back of the thighs to give yourself a little bit of support as you lower back down onto the floor. All the way back to your start position and straighten the legs back out, press the heels in. So if you are coming up quite easily, we're trying to get tummy muscles to squeeze us up all the way. Forward into the stretch. Sitting up on an inhale. Exhale, scoop the tummy muscles in, so we're rolling the spine back down onto the floor, controlling it all the way. Inhaling, exhaling, coming back up. So giving yourself the nudge and the support where you need it, if you need it. If you're coming up and down quite easily, what we can do is we can add in a pause halfway and rotate from one side to the other, and then up and forward, and then doing that same thing on the way back. Pause halfway, rotate one side to the other, all the way down, and then doing that again. We're going to go down one more time and come back up one more time. So last time up, option to add that rotation in if it feels good. Lean into your stretch, bend the knees as much as you need to for this stretch. Let the head drop down, turn the head from one side to the other. Sit up, reach right up to get some length in. Bring the arms down. So we're going to bend the knees so we can bring our feet flat onto the floor and sit with a nice straight back. Now if you find this really challenging, if your hip flexors are cramping, lift the toes up towards the ceiling or move your heels a little bit further away from you. So whatever feels good so that you can sit with a tall back. You might need to bend your knees a little bit more and hold on to the shins. So listening to your body. If you don't need to hold on to the shins, we're going to bring both arms out. If you need to hold on to the shins, hold on to one shin and bring one arm out. The arm that's extended out, obviously if you've got both, pick one side. You're going to sweep the arm round and then tap it down off the floor, bring it up and bring it back. So I'll show you that holding onto my shin. So other arm, rotate round, lean back, bring it up and bring it down. So rotate to open the arms wide, bring the hand down to the floor, little lean if you can, bring it round, switch sides, down, up and round. Now if this feels really good and you want to sweep back and sweep up, you can add that option in. But listen to your lower back. If this is not good for you, your lower back's going to tell you really quickly. So make the adjustments. So you might be bringing the hand on, doing the rotation, tapping the arm up and down. Do that one more time to each side. When you finish that last one, lean forward. Bringing yourself up, we are going to come over into side lying. So we'll have the bottom leg bent, top leg is going to be straight. Your head can be rested on your upper arm if that's comfortable for your shoulder. If it's not, put a pillow or cushion underneath your head. You want your ear in line with the shoulder, in line with the hip, so that the upper body is nice and straight. And then your leg is extended straight down to start with. This bottom leg is just bent to give us a little bit of balance. We want the tummy muscles drawn in, so imagine that you're trying to lift your waist slightly off the floor. Now some people will be able to lift their waist off the floor, some people won't, just depending on the shape of your body. There's no right or wrong here. This top leg, we want it hovering about hip height. The toes are pulled back so that you're flexing at the ankle, pushing through the heel. These tummy muscles are drawn in. Now, if you're feeling this already into the front of the hip, this leg, you're going to want to push it back very slightly so we can activate the butt muscles. Some people will need that, some people won't. Then we're going to think about this distance between the hip bone and the ribs. So you can use your hands to put that space, to hold that space. And then we're going to squeeze this leg up, not letting this waist collapse. And then bring the leg back down to hip height. So it doesn't matter how high your leg is lifting. What we don't want to happen is the leg to come up really high, but this upper body to collapse down and the waist to shorten. So we want to keep the waist long so that we're working butt and outer legs. So squeezing that leg up, squeezing it back down. So maybe you inhale the leg up and exhale it down. Maybe you exhale up and inhale it down. That doesn't really matter. What matters is you're keeping control and you keep breathing. You check in with this upper body. You don't start pushing the ribs forward just to try and get some work here. We still want to keep this in alignment, keeping the tummy in really tight. So we're working the back muscles and the tummy muscles as we're keeping this control. We're going to do that 2 more times. Squeeze it up, bring it down, squeeze it up, bring it all the way down this time. Let the leg bend, give it a stretch, give it any movement at all that feels nice for it. And then we're going to switch that over to the other side. When we come to the other side, this might feel totally different on this side than it did on the other side. Just depends what's going on with this butt cheek, with this hip. Quite often we have one side that's stronger than the other, one side that's more mobile than the other. So again, think ear, shoulder, hip are in line with each other. Tummy muscles are drawn in, get the ribs in place. This leg extended out, toes are pulled back, pushing through the heel. So as you lift the leg to be in hip width, notice how it feels in the front of the hip. That feels tight there. Squeeze into the back side, take the legs slightly back. Think about this distance in the waist, and when you're ready, lift the leg up, bring it back down. Not letting any of this collapse. Smooth breath. One part of the breath up, one part of the breath down. Make sure you're not tensing in around the shoulders or the jaw. Let's go for 3 more. Last one. And then when you're done, let that rest. Give it any movement that feels good. And then from there, we're going to come over onto our front. So coming onto your stomach, take a moment to make sure that you're nice and comfortable. If you can have your toes pointed away when you're lying here, let the toes be pointed away. It's just to help us keep length in the lower back, and then it helps us be able to engage the backside and the leg muscles a little bit more. When you lower the ribs and the chest down, you can keep your head turned to one side to start with, just to make sure that everything feels nice and comfortable under you. If you have quite exposed bones in the pelvis, you might want to put a cushion in underneath there just to give you a little bit softer space. I know some people can be quite sensitive in that area. We're going to take the arms out. So start with the arms in line with the shoulders and then slide them back a couple of inches, the hands back a couple of inches. We're going to turn our head so that our eyes are looking down towards the floor. Now in this position, your shoulders will naturally curl forward, so you want to draw the shoulders back and down so that we're opening in the chest. Then you're going to lift the arms up and squeeze and hold here for 3 breaths. So as we're bringing the arms up, we're squeezing into these mid-back muscles, keeping the chin slightly tucked in so that the neck stays long. Brace through the tummy muscles if you weren't already. And then let the arms come back down to the floor. And then we're going to lift that up again. So squeezing in towards that mid-back. Draw the shoulders back and down, pull the tummy muscles in. If you're not already squeezing into the backside and legs, squeeze into the backside and legs on this one. Keep everything tight, let the hands come back down to the floor. If your arms are feeling really heavy and you're struggling to get the hands off the floor, you can bend the elbows and work from here. We're going to do that 2 more times, so everything tight, squeeze and lift. Keep the breath nice and smooth. Holding it. And then let the hands come down. Keep everything tight. 1 more time, bringing it up, hold and squeeze. And then let that come down, let your head come back to the floor, rocking the hips out a little bit from one side to the other. Bring the hands in underneath the shoulders, send the hips back, come into child's pose just to get a release there, counter stretch that work that we've just done in the back. And then from there, come up onto your hands and knees. So we're going to set the wrists roughly underneath the shoulders. If you're not comfortable being with your palms flat, you can come onto your knuckles. That will straighten out the wrists if that feels better. If that doesn't feel good for you, then you could come down onto your forearms. You just need to be more conscious of your lower back if you do come down onto the forearms. If you can be up on your hands, be on your hands. Check in with your elbow pits, so where our elbows bend, and have them facing each other across the front of our body. So as women, we tend to be quite hypermobile, particularly in the elbow joint. So if your elbows are pushing forward, you're going to strain into the wrist and strain into the shoulder. So we want to keep those elbow pits facing each other. It will also help us work the arm muscles a little bit more without even having to do any extra work. Elbow pits are facing each other. We want to have our eyes looking beyond the fingertips so that we keep the neck long. Tailbone slightly tucked under so we can activate the butt muscles. And lightly press the shins down towards the floor. Now this is if you've got really tight ankles and you can't have your toes pointed away, put a cushion in underneath there so that you've got a little bit of softer pressure that you can press down into. And that's going to help us activate into the glutes, into the hamstrings just a little bit more. Now we're going to keep both our hands down on the floor to start with. And then you're going to extend one leg out and push through the heel. I'm just going to move a bit further forward so you can see that better. So bringing the leg out, keep it quite low, but push the heel out. And hold here for a couple of breaths. So notice if you start to shift the weight over to the other side, we still want to keep the weight fairly even between those 3 points. And then bring that back down. And then we're going to switch it to the other side. So as always, everything feels different from one side to the other. So notice if you start to shift the weight into the other hand, push through that heel, keep the breath nice and smooth, and then bring it down. We're going to switch sides again. So extend it out. This time, we're going to bring the leg up a little bit higher, and then move the knee towards the elbow, and then squeeze it back, and bring it down. And to the other side, extend that leg out, hold it for a second, bring it a little bit higher, make sure that the tummy stays nice and tight, bring that knee up towards the elbow, push it back out, and bring it down. So a smooth, controlled movement. We extend out, we lift the leg a bit higher, we bring the knee towards the elbow, take it back, bring it down, and again to the other side. Take it out, back, and down. And we're going to do that one more time to each side. Extend out, push through the heel, bring it in, push it out, take it down. Last time, out, in, out, down, sit the hips back, give your wrists a rest, circle them off. And we're going to bring ourselves back up onto the hands and knees. So take a moment just to reset your posture points, check those elbow pits. We're going to add an arm into the movement this time. So the first couple, opposite arm and leg are extending away, and then bring it back down. So just check how that feels for you first. Extending it out, push through the heel of the leg, and bring it back down. So doing that a couple of times to each side. If you feel really wobbly, keep the foot a bit lower, so you can even keep the toe on the floor if you need to. This time, when you come out, you're going to hold your arm and see if you can bring that knee up to the elbow, take it back, bring it all down. So all your arm is doing is extending out. It's the knee coming up to the elbow and back and down. We're going to do that one more time to each side if you can. Out, knee up, take it back, bring it down, out, knee up, take it back, bring it down, sit the hips back. Take a couple of big deep breaths in and out here. And then we're going to come into plank. So plank, we always have options. You can be up on your hands, starting from your kneeling tabletop, so think about those elbow pits. Wrists roughly under the shoulders or on your knuckles. Eyes looking beyond the fingertips, tailbone tucked under, backside and legs are nice and tight. From here, we extend one leg out, press the ball of the foot into the floor, sending the heel back. See how that feels. If you want to come into full plank, we come into full plank here. If you don't want to be up on the hands, you can come onto your forearms, extend it out, and come into here. Now, we shouldn't feel anything in our back at all when we're in plank. If you are, please get in touch with me, and I can do a wee Zoom call directly with you to go through your technique to make sure that pelvis is in the right angle. Quite often when people get sore back, if you're holding plank, you can come back out of it. Sometimes if people are in plank and they get a sore back, what they're doing is they come out and then they send the tailbone up, and that puts pressure in. So we want to tuck the tailbone under, squeeze into the backside. So if we think about how we did shoulder bridge, we tuck the tailbone under, squeezed into the backside to bring the hips up. You want that tailbone tuck in plank. So we're going to do that one more time. So if you want to stay in a half plank and hold that for a couple of breaths, you can stay there and then switch and then switch. If you feel good and it feels strong for you to come into the full plank, take your time coming into it. There's no rush to get there. When you get there, big deep breaths in and out. One more breath. Gently bring the knees down, send the hips back. Taking a breather. If plank feels really good for you and you love doing them, then you can always come in and do some more. This is just little short workouts for you to give you a little bit of a Pilates blast, introduce you to some of the moves, introduce you to me, introduce you to your body if you're not usually using it. So you can go back and do any of those exercises as many times as you want. There should be other videos still in the group for you to do. Any questions, please get in contact with me. Otherwise, see you in a fortnight.